Sheena, are you there, or you still have tech?
My PowerPoint.
Okay, yeah, but as far as giving you a grade and stuff, I'll let you do another presentation another day.
So. Gotcha. Okay.
But you can lead us still if you want. So.
All right. First I have the cast, which was Rose by Kate Winslet. Jack was Leonardo DiCaprio. Cal was Billy Zane, and Molly, Kathy Bates, and then Frances Fisher, which was the mom. Rose, which was Kate Winslet. She was in a bunch of other movies. The Reader. What was that one? She was in The Holiday.
Hold on a second, Sheena. We're in luck.
Okay.
We're in luck.
Okay.
So,
okay.
So here we go.
Oh, okay, good.
So which slide? Right here?
The cast.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, and then also added on this paper that Frances Fisher, which was the mom. And Leonardo DiCaprio, other big movies he was in was Inception, Shutter Island, Wolf on Wall Street. Those and things I looked up here. Billy Zane, he's in The Phantom. Back to the Future 2. I seen he was back. He was in that. Dead Calm. I've never heard of some of these. And then Tales from the Crypt. I remember like a little bit of that. I think I remember my mom talking about Tales from the Crypt.
It's a very punchable face, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he looks like a turd. Does anybody have any other movie? And then the Frances Fisher. It also she was in The Holiday, The Sinner, Unforgiven. Oh yeah, then Molly, which was Kathy Bates. She's in a lot of good. I know American Horror Story. I really like her in that. And Misery.
Dolores Claiborne.
Dolores.
Yeah, that's a good Stephen King movie. Dolores Claiborne.
I haven't seen that one. Misery. She's mean and really mean in that. Does anybody have any other movies that they remember these guys in?
I think Leonardo DiCaprio was in The Great Gatsby.
He's also in The Revenant. We'll be doing that one later, I think.
Yep.
He's also in Gilbert Grapes, I think.
Yeah, that was his first big role, even before this.
I really like that. That's a good movie.
The Departed. He's in The Departed. I know Timmy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I know Timmy likes that one. Yeah, he's probably one of Hollywood's most prolific actors now. Django Unchained, he was in that as well. Kate Winslet's a very prolific actress too. I mean, she's in a ton of stuff that I've seen over the years. Yeah, so I couldn't. I would have to look to see what all I've seen her in, but I've seen her in a ton of stuff as well. I'm sure some of you guys have too.
I like her in The Holiday with Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, there's the guy who plays the Titanic builder in the movie. David Lean. He plays George Washington in the John Adams miniseries. I recognized him from that. He's a very good actor. He's kind of got this like stoic personality to him. Next slide, Kashina.
Yes, please. Some fun facts. The elderly couple laying in the bed was based in the movie near the end. It was based on a real couple. Rose also spitting in Cal's face was not in the script, and Kate was improvising. So I thought that was really neat too. And also found out the water on the set was so cold that Kate ended up getting hypothermia. So that's really cold. And then the carpet on the set of the movie was actual carpet from the real Titanic. I found out, like the manufacturers made the same, so I thought that was really cool. Some themes were love, hope, adventure, tragedy. The movie was mainly, well, it was to tell the Titanic, but it was a love story. What was everybody's thoughts on the themes? Does anybody have any other ones or
Another
anything?
theme that I thought of was her trying to fight for her freedom to get away from Cal and her mother and try to have a better life than what they planned.
Right?
That's a good one. I didn't think about freedom. That's a really good one.
Yeah, of course, the whole issue with Rose is she doesn't love this guy, right? You know, this is a prearranged marriage, you know, but she's marrying him just for his money. Like her mother's even like, you need to marry this guy. We're broke, right? So I could see why she would feel trapped, right?
Also added, which I see it didn't say that one, was the director. I have it on this one. Director was James Cameron, and he first gained his recognition from Terminator. That's with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And but Titanic was his biggest hit. He also did Terminator 2, Judgment Day, True Lies, Avatar, and then he also got an award, Academy Award with Titanic for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Filming Editor. So he's had a lot, and then I see he's coming out with that Avatar too. So he's a big director.
Yeah, both Titanic and Avatar made like $1 gazillion a piece between both of them. So he's
Yeah, I really like them both.
Yeah, he directed two of the biggest Hollywood blockbusters ever. Of course, Terminator and Terminator 2's, those are big movies too. So, well, what other themes would you guys add? Eileen gave us a good one. With Rose feeling trapped. Go ahead.
Well, the movie is pretty tragic. I'd also say there's a little bit of comedy to it. Jack is a pretty humorous character and has an amazing sense of humor throughout the film. And there's plenty of funny scenes like the second party that Jack takes Rose to, and also the idea of all the people who worked on the ship being like, "Oh, this ship, this ship is it's perfect. You can't destroy it. Nothing would take it down." And then, of course, it ends up getting taken down.
I thought it was crazy how right before they even got on the ship, Cal said, "Oh, this is the unsinkable ship. Even God couldn't take his ship down." Well, God showed him he did.
Right.
I don't know if this would count, but I would say greed, because about Rose's mother wanting her to marry for money, and just like the social classes and everything that's involved with the Titanic itself. You could see how money played a huge factor in like who really got to be on the boat and who got on the ship, like the lifeboats and everything.
I could see actually, like, I don't know if it'd be the same as love, but like romance is one, but I don't know if you consider that love too, maybe.
What do you think about this one? Did Rose love Jack, or was it an infatuation? Because they had only known each other for like 3 days, right?
I think she was more interested in the change of lifestyle.
Right, sort of living on the road and living life without knowing what you're going to do that day.
Yeah, I could see now that you said that maybe she just wanted to rebel against her mother because her mother tried to control her so much. I didn't ever look at it like the movie like that.
I think she loved the idea of him. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm sorry. I think it was like it started. It's infatuation, but it grew into love. But only reason it grew into love was because of the sacrifice that he did for her, like this, the sacrifice that happened in the story and stuff like that, and that he died he died for her. So it grew into love. But I think it started out as like, in fact, she was just obsessed with him, and he was obsessed with her. And because, you know, they both gave each other something that the another had. He, you know, he got this school, upper class school, you know, and she got to, you know, rough it with the other ones and live a different life than what she was used to, a life of more freedom. So they just became obsessed with each other. But I do think that she did love him, because I think it just grew into that.
See, I disagree. I think that it's a very negative way of looking at women, because I thought she seemed to be very needy. She wasn't with that guy, so she needed another man. She couldn't just go out on her own, so she really needed to lean on somebody else instead of just, if not, she wouldn't have cheated and would have just left him.
The social, I mean, nowadays I see that, but the social class and women's rights and stuff back then, she really didn't really have much say, because the girl, her parents pretty much was like, you know, they bought her for who she's with, you know, they didn't have much rights to even go free. And like, I think because like when you see the pictures and stuff at the end, I think when she did, she lied about her name. She became a new person. She went off, and I think she went off to be free, and she didn't go off and find another man or something. Which I know she did remarry, but if the pictures that shows up her life, she went and did riding of the horse like a guy, like he asked her to, went to the roller coaster and stuff. I think she went, and he gave her freedom and gave her a sense of, you know, I can be independent. I don't need nobody. I think he did give her that. And I think it's just social status is why she just couldn't leave that guy.
I kind of agree with you on that, because she really didn't have much of a choice. She had to do what those two always said until Jack came along, and Jack was her chance to get out.
I would say that she loved the idea of him. Like, think about it. On the boat, she was more so free than she was ever at home. Like, going on about what they said, she didn't had a choice. But once, like, he sacrificed himself, I feel like she loved the admiration of him. She didn't probably love him, but she admired him. And just thought of the world. There's a difference between admiration and love in my mind with that.
Also, feel like she might have been kind of selfish. Like, I don't know if anybody else thought about it, but I feel like there might have been room for Jack on that, like, whatever she was laying on. I feel like there was room for the both of them. And I don't know. I just kind of feel like she was selfish, or he could at least try to get up there.
Yeah, we discussed that a few minutes at the beginning of class, Kashina. Like maybe like the weight would have pushed the boat, the little raft under. Like that was something we said.
I could see that part. Yeah. But I feel like they could have even just tried, you know? But so it made her like seem selfish.
Maybe even take turns. You know, you come up here and hang out a while, right? I'll get in the water a while. Maybe even that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, just be real
her.
for a minute. She was a shysty bitch. I mean, that's it.
Well, I didn't want to say
actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, Rose was the one who had the life jacket. Jack did not have a life jacket. Why didn't?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah. She was all about her.
I was thinking that Cal, when he grabbed that baby and was like, I'm the only one she has left, like, that was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad, creepy. I didn't like that part. I was like, oh, you jerk.
Then he threw the baby to the side when the thing seemed to, he's like, he'll hold her, and then he left.
Yeah, the bad guys always live, usually.
Yeah, he's a fun antagonist just because he's like this mustache twirling villain, right? He's almost so evil. He's a cartoon character. Like,
didn't he end up killing himself?
Yep. Yeah, they said when the stock market crashed in 29, he lost all his money, so he lost all his purpose to live. So.
I like the letter she left in the safe for him to read after the fact. That, you know, it says, you know, now you have me in this safe with this diamond. You know, I forget exactly what the letter said, but, you know, and it was a picture of her naked, you know, and, you know, he knows that one guy's an artist, so he knew he drew it. it was, kind of like a little snub in his face. And I like when she mentioned the Freud guy, like she had that attitude, like when she mentioned Freud at the beginning of it to that one guy when he was talking about how great and big the ship was, and he said, Dr. Freud has an opinion, I forgot what she said, but I just she had those funny snide moments also.
Yeah, you could tell she's very well educated and things like that, right? Some of you in here have heard me discuss Freud before in this class, my classes. So, do you guys? A lot of you guys agree with Timmy? Then, do you think that she's selfish, or
I think she is. I think she's all about herself.
I think she is as well.
Yeah, she's all about herself.
I think she's just young and naive, and that comes with it, because she did go back for him to get and went and got a saw where a lot of people would have just left him and not even tried to find a saw. And then, she came back on the boat when she left the life raft, to go back to him. So I do think there was a level of infatuation for him, like to preserve him. I just think that, she was young, naive, and, I don't think she was completely selfish.
I agree with you, Jessica.
I think she was young and naive, but that's the only, like the way that her mom was, her having this infatuation with him, that was aside from all she knew was, just this life that she was kind of being, like this prearranged marriage and this life that she was kind of being pretty much forced into. And then the one scene where, her and Jack first meets where she's, even about to, commit suicide, and she's feels like she's in a room and she's screaming at the top of her lungs and nobody can hear her. And, she's kind of got this relationship with her mom. You can tell it's a strained relationship with her mom. And her mom reminds her, like, there's no money. We're just hidden by a good name, and everything. So her mom kind of tells her, and she tries to, tell her all this, which not saying she made, like the best choices and everything, but I do think, like, looking at it, watching it this time, because I've seen this like, several times, but it's been several years since I've seen it. I had not watched it like, since I've, kind of, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but looking at some of the scenes and some of the situations, I looked at them a little bit differently than I guess I looked at them years ago. And I think that the relationship with Jack, it was something new, and it was a complete 360 from what she was in. And I think even if the situation would have been a little bit different, I still think she would have been that infatuated. You know what I mean? But what he was offering was, like more carefree. Like she had everything at her fingertips with Cal, but then like the one, I think they were at breakfast or something, like when he like flips the table over and he's like yelling and he's, like right in her face, issues like that. Like she did feel trapped and she felt like she was just, like that. So I would say, I don't know, I could see how she's being selfish, but at the same time, I think she was almost like looking for any way out. And I don't remember who said it a few minutes ago, but like that during that time, like women weren't necessarily like as free to make whatever choices that they wanted to. It was kind of like her mom was telling her what to do and society was looking at her and it's like, oh, you can't do that, or oh, what would people think? And so she didn't necessarily feel as free to be able to do what she wanted to. So I think it was a little bit of, just being able to be free, or to maybe the freedom to do what she wanted, but it was also the first thing, like to be able to get away from him also. And
I was the one that said that. Yeah, I said that she was trying to get a way out because she had no other choice, and Jack was her way.
Could it have been a psychology thing where he saved her, and then she had this infatuation with him or something? That's what I was thinking.
I don't think it would matter if it was Jack or not, regardless of who it was. The first person that showed interest in her, she was going to go.
She's playing a 17-year-old in this, and that also has a big bearing on it, because think when you're 17, everything's like now. You're at the top of your life, everything, everything's so dramatic at that age. And she may look like a woman in this, but if you look at the age that they portray her, she's only 17 years old. So I think that goes a lot with her, how she acts and stuff like that, like why she's so impulsive, so infatuated, because a 17-year-old, they don't have that emotional maturity yet to really say, I need out of this relationship, or to stand up for themselves, or do the things that we're saying that she should do. So even if we would put her at today's standards of women, she was only 17.
And I think some of that's true. I think too, like even when she was sitting with her mom and the other ladies, like having tea with them, I think, and she looked like just across the room, and the other mother with the little girl, the way that she like laid, she made her like sit, not just sit, but then she had to sit completely like up, completely upright with her back completely straight. And then she had to lay her napkin just a certain way in her lap, and it was like she kind of looked, like at that. But I think it's maybe a little bit of both, because I think before Jack, she knew like deep down inside, and she didn't know necessarily how to express that. Like again, women in that time, I don't think knew how to express, or could not express like, their self, good or bad, like in any way. So I think for her, Jack kind of helped her to, whether it was him she was infatuated with, or just the sense of what it was, to kind of give her the freedom to, just be the real Rose and the real self, or maybe what she really wanted, instead of what her mom was telling her, or what society was telling her, or what her fiance was telling her, or what society expected from her. It was like, what do I want? Do I want to do this, or what, and I think maybe a little bit of it, was from that too.
Stacy, the more
Agree.
the more you talk, the more this reminds me of what we read last semester, right? Madam Over. This story and that have a lot in common. You guys don't know.
Yeah, it does. I mean, because it's like, like women in society. And that's, like I said, when I watched this, gosh, I mean, years ago, like I'd seen it so many times, like years ago, but watching it now, it was just like, I kind of looked at some of the situations different. And even when, like, maybe when you're in a relationship, because I remember being younger when I was in a relationship, with, because before I was married, now I was engaged to a younger guy. And, some of you all know my mom passed away, last semester, but when I was engaged to him, my mom she just adored him. But I had met him when I was so young, and like we just kind of grew up and together, and we just stayed together just because we just through high school, and my mom, like, and my family just loved and adored him. But it was like we kind of, for me, grew apart from him. Like I didn't want to be with him, but I had so much pressure from like my mom and like my family, because they really liked him. And I mean, like when I decided to break it off, like I was just like, I was terrible, like because everybody loved him and he was just great, and all this stuff. So I kind of related to like that part of it. Like she felt like she was screaming and nobody was listening, or nobody could hear what she was saying. And she was trying to say, she just did not feel like, I guess, like, what was love to her, like what, like, yeah, he gave her like all these things she could wear, like any dresses, designers, paintings, like you name it, like she had anything and everything materialistically at her fingertips that she could have. But she didn't have like that, I guess, passion or that love or whatever. She didn't have that feeling, that feeling of her and like who she really was. Like everybody else seemed happy and society seemed happy and he was happy, but was she really happy? Like her smile and just like, to her face, like she could make everybody think she was happy, but was she really happy inside?
She couldn't even order her own food. He had to pick her food out for her.
Right.
At 17 years old, do you really know what love is, though?
I was about to say the same thing, Timmy. I
don't think you can. I don't think you have the ability to be so emotionally attached to somebody to truly know what being in love is at 17.
At the same time, Timmy, you sometimes see people get married in high school or whatever, and they stay together their whole lives, right? So
Yeah, but what's the chances of that?
I've been me and my
It's
I'm
not very much. I mean, like it's. I mean, it does happen, but not very often.
guess I can't. Me and my husband. I've been with my husband since I was 14, so I can see the falling in love and being in love from 17 on. But I do agree, it's very, very rare, and usually it is infatuation. You don't really know what true love is, but there is like those real circumstances that it does work out. And it could have been with them, or then again, she could have ran away with him and then said how much harder it was to be poor and went back to being rich and left him on the side, and that would have been very selfish.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that she's selfish. More so, just young and dumb, and just wanting a way out of her relationship with Cal, and wanting out of everything that she's dealing with at the time. Now, do we know, like, if Jack and her would have been well together if they did live? We don't know, but I definitely don't think she was selfish.
I agree.
We might have found out how well they would have done if she wouldn't have been so selfish and let him get up there with her.
Yeah, I kind of think I agree with Timmy about the 17, and not many people do stay together. It is awesome, Jessica, that you guys have. I think she just was excited about the adventure of like seeing another guy. At 17, it's all usually puppy love or just excited about just something new, different. And rebelling against her mom. So that when you're 17, you almost get off on that, like doing what you're not supposed to do.
He's got that bad boy allure to him too, doesn't he?
Yeah, so that.
Well, you got to think. Sorry, you got to think too, like the different types of like affection and stuff that she was being shown. Like you got to look like the way that Cal was with her. Like he would rarely escort her. He was usually escorting her mom, like when they would go into dinner and things like that. And like she would be like following behind them or something, and he would be looking at her in like kind of that way. But then with Jack was with her, and whether like. Aside from being selfish, I don't necessarily think that she was selfish, but I don't think that she was like really like in love with him either. I think that it was too soon. It could have maybe turned to that, but I don't think that she was like in love because of how soon it was. But I think that, like Jack was, it was her. His focus was like on her. What was she doing? Like, talking with her and like different things that they would do together. And it was a different kind of attention that she was getting from Cal. Like it was two completely, like the classes were obviously completely different, like, rich and poor, obviously, but it was also two completely different kinds of love. Like, Cal, like he could give her anything she wanted, but did he really treat her, like he loved her other than giving her something material, like material and money and things like that. And then as far as Jack, he could not give her whatever she wanted materialistically, like he couldn't afford to give her anything like that. But how did he treat her as far as treating her?
Yeah, the the love plot in the movie is certainly interesting. I would be remiss if I didn't say that this sort of film, this sort of blockbuster epic sort of deal, and then having a romance sort of thrown in, this almost became its own genre for a while. Right? I don't know if you guys watch Pearl Harbor, the Pearl Harbor film with wasn't it Ben Affleck? The Pearl Harbor film kind of had the same plot as Titanic, with a love story mixed in with tragedy and all this stuff.
Now that you said that, like love story and Ben Affleck, that makes me think of Armageddon. Yep, I was going to say it.
Yeah, Bruce Willis was in that one, wasn't he? Yeah.
I cry every time when she tells him goodbye. I'll bawl crying. I can't.
Yeah, the early 2000s Hollywood, this became, people tried to mimic Titanic just because it was such a big blockbuster. We would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the filmmaking too. As far as they actually built almost a replica of the real Titanic to do this movie. They built one side of it though. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but they never show like the ship in its entirety, right? They always only show the one side of it through the movie. So they did that to save some money. But yeah, this wasn't CGI or anything like that, right? They literally did build another Titanic, but only one side of it.
Isn't there like a Titanic museum or something somewhere?
Yeah, there's one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I
thought they did excellent doing the film. The way they filmed it, I thought it was excellent, especially for being a 90s film. Which, I mean, 90s films wasn't terrible, but they did really good doing the film.
Yeah, the movie has a sense of scope, right? It really shows how gargantuan the ship was. Who was it? One of you guys on the discussion board earlier, I didn't write down who, but one of you guys wrote about the flying scene, right, where he's holding her and the camera goes and shows them. Like,
yeah, that was me.
Yeah, you want to talk about that, Taylor?
Yeah, I just liked how like a lot of scenes in the movies, it's almost like the 2 cameras or 3 cameras and it cuts back and forth, especially like conversation, like it'll go from her face to his face and it'll just switch cameras. But in that one, it was like one shot, it just kept moving and it would show you like every angle of like the ship.
Yeah, you can kind of imagine like the scope of even how difficult this was to film, right? This is definitely the hardest to make film we've watched so far, like Shawshank and Rocky and Cuckoo's Nest, right? Those were mostly all self-contained, especially Cuckoo Nest and Shawshank, right?
Like those were more concentrated on the actors,
right? Rather than
the
backdrop.
Titanic is more, yes, it's more the theme and the boat.
I think they did an excellent job. One thing I like about the film was the flashback, because like they show like what it looked like inside, and then they sort of try to reconstruct it for the film. So even like a lot of the sets that they built were pretty excellent, especially.
Yeah, I like that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, like the staircase, for instance, right?
I think it's one of those movies that if they done it today, it would be too watered down. So it shouldn't be remade. The way that movies were done in the 90s made it a lot more realistic. Now it would just be too much CGI and it would just look too fake.
Yeah, even the long run time of the movie, right? This is definitely the longest run time of a movie we've seen, well over 3 hours. Today's Hollywood can't really get away with that, right?
I love the underwater scenes. The scene that like it shows like the footage of like underwater, like what it looked like the Titanic, like submerged, like when they record it, and then it like when it like how you said the flashback, how it like showed like it went to like nowadays, like not nowadays, but back then. But it also showed like I just like the underwater footage. I just felt like that looked very real, like the wreckage.
That was real, wasn't it? Wasn't that real footage?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was real footage.
Yeah, while we're talking about underwater, I did want to mention one fun fact about the movie I'm surprised wasn't mentioned. Kate Winslet, when they were filming the scene where they were underwater, the water was rising and they were trying to get through the gate, and they were trying to use the key while they were submerged under the water. Kate Winslet actually almost drowned during that scene because when they went to let them out and open the gate, her dress got caught in the gate and they weren't able to get her out.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah, I remembered hearing that a long time ago, so I felt like bringing it up here.
So she really had bad luck. She got hypothermia and then almost drowned.
She probably doesn't look back too fondly on on the filming of the film.
Yeah, sound like they got their money's worth out of her.
Another thing I'm surprised about is the rating of the film. This film got away with a PG-13 rating, which is pretty interesting. There's language in the film, right? There's nudity, so that's another interesting tidbit. I bring this up because this is such a big part of Hollywood. R-rated movies typically don't make the money PG-13
Didn't they have a scene where they did it in the car, but you didn't see it? It was kind of like
yeah, you saw the hand stain on the window, right?
Yeah,
steam.
Yeah.
I think they got away with the PG-13 because the nudity was art. She was posing for art.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hand scene, like you guys talked about when they did it in the vehicle, it was kind of like a fade to black. Like they don't actually say they did anything, but it's implied. So if the audience is young enough, they might not really know what happened. So I think that's how they got away with that PG-13, because it wasn't overly said. And then the nudity again was what they considered art. So it wasn't like to be sexualized, even though, as adults, we knew that, but kids,
Well, so how long did you say that they knew each other?
Like 3 days.
No more than a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then they had sex in the thing. How can anybody argue that she's a tramp? And how can anybody argue that?
You make a good point.
I agree.
But would you call him a tramp though, Timmy? Would you call him one too?
I think you guys are too hard on her.
I do too.
I agree with y'all.
Okay, we can say they both are.
Hey, we can go down this rabbit hole if y'all want to.
I was surprised how many people were like, yeah, she was
They're in love.
Thought she was just a good girl trying to get free.
Like, well, I didn't think it'd be this mixed of an opinion.
Is it love or lust?
Right.
Well, we can report to it as Lady and the Tramp, because in the same movie, the dog got knocked up after meeting.
That's a good point, Jessica. That's a very good point. What about the soundtrack in the film? We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the song from the movie, right? You guys know the one.
I think my husband kind of overheard from a different room, and he says, "Y'all need to be on Jerry Springer for how y'all's arguing."
But yeah, the song was supposed to represent her loving him even after.
The heart will go on, right?
Also realized that Celine Dion is from Canada, and so was the director, James Cameron.
I don't think she really loved him after. I think it was more of admiration, like he was willing to sacrifice. Because I also agree with Timmy, she is a tramp, so is he, though. Not Timmy himself, but you know what I mean.
You guys know you can say almost anything with me and get away with it, right? if we would make this claim with some professors, right, they would probably get uptight about it. But here we
Well,
are.
I don't have to worry about my grade getting dropped down any. So
Free and open debate. That's what I'm about. But yeah, this movie's song is iconic. Right? This movie's song has almost taken on a life of its own after the film. Of course,
I think it's weird that she just met this guy and she's like, paint me like one of your French girls. And I'm like, no.
I think she did it more to get back at that guy.
Just going off what Jules just said, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. It reminds me of a story. I used to do shows in the park. One was Bill France. Bill France would always do the iconic pose. And we always like, paint me like one of your French girls to make fun of him. So if you know Bill France, just say that to him.
Yep, I'm in his Cuckoo Nest play coming up.
Yeah, so by her just saying that just to me feels like she just wants to hook up.
I also kind of want to bring up
too much of a hard time.
Say that again, Ashley. You kind of faded in and out there.
I think everybody is giving Rose too much of a hard way to go. She was 17 years old. She was beautiful. Why not get painted like a French girl? She was prettier than any.
Right. I agree with you, Ashley.
I agree with you too, Ashley. Also, she did love art a lot, and that's why she wanted that painting done of her, is because she was so deep into art.
well, I have a daughter, and I don't care if she's 40. I don't want her getting painted like a French girl.
And just think,
My
her
husband
beautiful
agrees.
body and that beautiful necklace was found in the bottom of the ocean after that many years. She's seen her young body, that's something that was supposed to be buried in the bottom of the ocean, on the news.
Yeah, the style of artwork, the boudoir sort of like naked pictures and stuff, right? This is still popular today. Like it's an empowering sort of thing. It's not meant for sexualization as much as empowerment sort of deal, right?
one last thing I want to bring up, just because I wanted to talk about it, was the very last scene in the film where after she throws the necklace back into the ocean, it cuts to back to young Rose climbing up the steps with everyone surrounding her on the ship. Comes up to Jack, and then they embrace and everyone starts clapping. I kind of wanted to bring up that scene, what everyone thought that was supposed to represent, what that meant. In my eyes, I saw it as like, I was assumed it was supposed to be like the afterlife, because it showed her after she died, that was them reuniting after so long of being apart from each other.
Yeah, I think that's what it is too. Is it's like her dying and then reconnecting with him in the afterlife. And maybe all the people that are there cheering might have been the ones that perished in the wreckage.
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. Yeah, I think your hypothesis makes sense. It felt very dreamlike, right? The cinematography there, it felt very dreamlike.
I felt the same way, that it looked like most of the people that was there cheering was the ones who did die.
Yeah, I mean, the way the movie, the way they portray it's almost like she's taking her final breath. That's the way I always took it. Like she was laying there finally, I guess, had told her story and had finally come to peace with everything, so she could finally die, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that, Timmy.
Yeah, she was like 1,000,000 years old by the time we get to 1997 here. Like
Yeah, she says, after it's been 84 years, like
84 plus 17. Do the
Yeah.
math.
Yeah, she was 101 years old, I believe they said. She was very old.
Yeah, that scene's meant. I think that's definitely meant to be melodramatic, Matt.
I like how when she
scene.
goes to talk to him about it and they go to interrupt her and she's like giving them back the sarcasm of, do you want to hear this or not? And I think that was to draw attention to what she was trying to talk about, because if you never watched the movie, then you wouldn't know, and then you'd start thinking it's a documentary until she says that.
I don't know if anybody touched on this earlier or not, but I think that Jack gave her he empowered her enough to give her a voice, because she just almost like she just would always look down, and then she was finally able to stand up for herself.
I agree.
So it ain't so much that, like somebody had said earlier, it ain't so much that she was in love with him, just mainly like in love with the idea of maybe the sense of entitlement that he had gave her. Like, not so much she was in love with him, but she fell in love with the way that he made her feel.
I can see that, and even how they angled, like if you notice when she's with I can forget his name, the rich guy, she's looking down when she tried to rebel with the cigarette and they snubbed it out. She doesn't say anything. When he chokes her, she's looking down a lot, like she's just like, not focusing. But with him, she's looking up more, like in the shots and stuff, like looking at him instead of looking down. And then, when she really has that rebellion, where she just spits in his face, like she looks up at him and just spits in his face, where the whole time she was always timid. Well, not timid around him, because she did have a voice. Like she did speak up and rebel sometimes, but she was mostly like looking down and just going with the flow and just doing what him and her mother told her to do. And Jack, I agree with what you're saying, did give her that voice to finally look up at him and tell him, forget you, and spit in his face and just run off.
I think a lot of men during that time were very abusive towards their wives and girlfriends and everything. So it was probably extremely abusive to her, which they don't shown in the movie. That I can remember. It's been 20 years since I've watched the movie, but
he screams at her in that one scene, right? Turns the table over and all that. Well, guys, a very lively discussion here, right? So it was a good time.
One of my favorite characters was Molly, because she didn't let them rich people get her down. She always turned things around.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time left, but I'm glad you brought that up real quick, Aline, because Molly's the American character, right? You got all these British so concerned about their social classes and all this, right? Molly.
She kind of treated Jack like he was like one of them, you know what I mean? Like he was in that social class. She even gave him, she said, "You're about the same size as my son. Go try this on,"
Yeah, she treated him like he was a family. She was really drawn towards him.
I think she was the only one that really cared how unhappy that Rose was, and that really paid enough attention to her to realize that she was unhappy. She's still a tramp, though.
Yeah, this type of character is pretty common even in literature for the time. Like you have like the American character who's newly rich, but they don't have the same manners and sophistication as the British upper class do. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but even they kind of look down on Molly here.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
seemed like she.
they called her
That
new
old
money.
money rich.
Mhm.
They called her new money too, didn't they?
Yeah, new money. That's what they called it. Yeah,
She seemed like she was the only character that actually just had a heart. Like she just treated everybody good.
And I that's probably from her not being from a bunch of from a very wealthy family. That's she's not lived her whole life being stuck up snob towards everybody, and she's still has some of that decency left in her.
We Americans just traditionally haven't been as concerned with social class as a lot of people in Europe are. Right? So still a little bit of it, like if you get on an airplane today, right? You still get a little bit, but for the most part, not as much. Well, guys, again, fun discussion. I don't want to hold you over here, so remember Thursday is Vertigo. So we will see you all then.
Great
And I'm sorry I had
discussion,
technical
everybody.
difficulties.
That's all right. We had a good conversation in the end. So
Yes, I'm glad we got it fixed. Thank you so much.
well, we'll see you all later.
What is that movie streamed on?
I looked before class. I didn't see it on anything, so you'll probably have to rent it.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
You too.